Copy, you're powering off the PGT and bundling to the crew lock bag.
I think I'd like to do the inventory before I bundle it, so that once it's bundled, it can stay attached.
Outlets are down, Tomas.
Copy, Nick, and I'll remind you to check your gauntlets, as always, as you're crossing the Sarge. And Christina, you are go to perform this inventory with the PGT not yet bundled. Well, we'll remind you to bundle it at the end.
Copy. It's off. Inventory of a socket caddy.
Okay.
On an integrated rack, 6-inch wobble. I have a GoPro added to a D-ring with a camera ignition. I have a ratchet wrench with a 9-inch hex and 2 rests. Next, I'll look at the gap spinner. I have 3 sets of gap spinners. One is in a small AVA trash bag. Small AVA trash bag goes to a rep. One gap spinner goes to an integrated rep. The gap spinner goes to the other 2 go to integrated reps. Also a wire tie holding the gap spinners together. I mentioned the 2 reps on the ratchet wrench going to the outside. The bag external has a large, small adjustable. A ret series to the PGT and a single ret as well on the external, and 1 wire tie for bundling the PGT. That's it. So I like to.
And Christina, that's a good inventory for crew lock bag 2. We want to let you know that we consider your CO2 sensor as failed. So we'll go to press on, not an issue, but you are prime for CO2 symptoms.
Copy.
I dropped my green hook at 5109 again.
Copy, Nick, 5109 for your green hook. And 1 go back, Christina. We consider it failed, but it actually isn't. It's just suspect right now, but we want to consider it failed for our purposes.
Understand. Yes.
And Christina, on your way down from the EP bridge, you'll have to retract and fold that ingress aid down to the boot plate.
Copy.
And you'll have to pick up your green hook on your way to P4.
Okay, sounds good. Currently bundling the PGT.
Not the APSR, Tomas.
Copy, Nick. You can ingress this APFR, 1 more ingress for today, and stow the ingress aid once it's done.
Copy, inward.
Nick Higgs made his way back to the P4 truss where the integrated electrical assembly is. We'll be installing this last adapter plate. Christina Cook will be following him. She's been doing an inventory of the tools, make sure none are missing, and also getting a call from the ground to let her know that there's a failed or possibly failed CO2 sensor that keeps track of the carbon dioxide level in her spacesuit. So she is going to be, or the team here on the ground is going to be depending on her to monitor whether or not she has any symptoms that CO2 might be rising. All good so far, though, so they're going ahead as planned with the next task, which again is the installation of that final adapter plate. And crew's still doing really good on time. They're 3 hours and 41 minutes into today's spacewalk and about 10 minutes ahead of schedule at this point.
Freehand, if you could make sure your WVS is on.
Okay.
I'm in the APFR.
All right, Nick, well done. It's the last one for today, I think. And you can stow the Ingersoll, check your tethers are clear, and inspect the IEA interfaces and the blind mate connectors.
Copy. Ingersoll is folded back towards me. Tethers are clear. Blind mate connectors are free of FOD. my band. Interface looks clean.
Okay, Nick, that's awesome. Next step is for you to soft dog this AP Delta. You can try that now, or you can wait for Christina. You're going to have to wait for her anyway in a few steps.
Okay, I'll just wait. I think it'll help with the alignment.
Sounds good.
Great. Mayor, on the bundling. Great bundling plan.
Copy, Christina. And Nick, just a reminder, we'll take also, if you're in a position to do this, you can wait for Christina as well, no rush, but if you're in a position to do this, we'd like you to inspect the backside of the AP.
Sure, good work.
Capcom Thomas Pesquet, they're asking for an inspection of the back side of the adapter plate before they begin installing it so that they can keep gathering information on where the metal flakes that the crew saw might have come from.
And Christina, I don't know if you've tried to recover your WVS, but we're still not getting it here on the ground.
Okay. Let's just finish the bundling. Freehand, going for it now. Confirm a green LED.
Copy, and now we see it.
On the back side of the AP, look good. Ends are good. Good EMI bands. Everything looks clean on the back side of the AP.
And copy, we see you inspecting those interfaces. Anything wrong with the bolt interfaces on the AP?
I was looking at the H2, other than just seeing some maybe a little bit of wear. I don't see any debris on the bolt. It's the dry lube that's rubbed a little.
Copy, the dry lube is rubbed a little. We didn't copy the first half of your message. You got garbled a little bit, so if you could say that again.
Yeah, copy. The bolt looks clean, no debris. Just I mentioned that looks like there's a little bit of the dry lube that is worn off the first couple of threads.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Nick, and it sounds good to us, so we can press on.
Okay.
Everything looking good with that inspection that Haig was doing on the adapter plate, so he's got the go-ahead to begin installing it. He, again, just like with the others, will be driving 2 bolts to secure it in place, and then there will be a series of 3 clamps to release before they can connect the cable from the adapter plate to one of the new batteries that was installed previously by the space station's robotic arm.
And it's in soft dock tomorrow.
Copy, Nick. Good job. You're becoming really fluent with those APs.
This makes perfect.
Nice job.
I was able to reach the GT with a hex driver.
Copy. So you can retrieve that PGT. Did you lock out your ret on the EPI Delta? I'm not sure. And you can retrieve that PGT, and I'll have settings for you.
Copy. The ret is locked out to the adapter plate. I'm ready for settings.
Okay, Nick, your settings for this standby one. Yeah, your settings are going to be Alpha 7, clockwise 2.
Alpha 7, clockwise 2. Copy. We're set.
Okay, standby 1, Nick.
Goodbye.
And I am at the APFR bridge.
Copy, you'll have to retract this ingress aid and pick up your green hook on your way to P4. And Nick, you're in a good position right now. I would like you to wait for Christina for the install for possible side loading. So you have a couple minutes for yourself.
Waiting.
Views of both spacewalkers here. Nick Haig waiting at the integrated electric assembly on the P4 truss segment while Christina Cook makes her way back there, having done some cleanup at the exposed pallet that the adapter plate they're installing came from.
Right now, and you'll pick it up when you come back to recouple the SETA card, so that's really your choice, but you can leave it where it is.
Okay, copy. I'll leave it for now. I'll pick it up when I come back for the final time.
Okay, that sounds good. And can you confirm for me that you have your gauntlets in place before you cross this arch?
We'll confirm that when I get there.
Copy. Thank you.
Blade is off. It's stay position and folded.
Copy, Christina. That looks good to us, and you can stow your crew log bag too on that PFR bridge. And Nick, since you're there and you have the camera in hand, we wouldn't mind pictures of the stanchions of the AP if you haven't already done so.
And we're
Just another reminder that you can keep asking your questions on social media using the hashtag AskNASA. And while we have a quiet second as Christina Cook moves back towards the P4 truss, we'll take a few more of those questions. First one's coming from Sion, who is asking, are the tools that astronauts use on the spacewalk, I think, used inside as well, or are they specifically made for use in space? The tools they are using are often specifically made for use in space. They're not exclusively, and often they are made specifically for use on spacewalk out in the vacuum of space. That makes them a little more complicated than some of the tools we use on the ground. That said, sometimes the crew members do take things that they have inside the space station and cobble them together for tools that are needed for unexpected tasks. In fact, they did a little bit of that on the previous spacewalk when they wanted to remove some debris from a docking, a berthing mechanism. They had some tape that they attached to the end of a rod that they could use to attach to the end of a scraper that they could use to either pick up the debris using the tape, or if it didn't come up that way, scrape it off using the scraper. Robert is asking, are there enough spacesuits for each astronaut in case of an emergency? There are enough spacesuits that everybody has spacesuits that fit them on the space station. That said, in an emergency, the astronauts would probably be getting into their Soyuz to come back home if needed, rather than going on a spacewalk. You could have an emergency that requires a spacewalk, but not everybody would go outside for the spacewalk. Just 2 people is usually what we send out for spacewalks. So you really would probably only need 2 spacesuits in the event of a spacewalking emergency, but there are spacewalks for all the crew members, or spacesuits that will work for all the crew members. And Ty is asking, will there be more spacewalks later this year? We don't have any specifically scheduled yet, but I believe that we can probably expect to see some more spacewalks over the course of the year, so definitely stay tuned, and we will let you know as they are scheduled. Correction to that, we do have 1 spacewalk already scheduled. We've got a series of 3 that we're in the middle of, and you definitely do want to tune back in on April 8th to see the last of the series of 3. Beyond that, there probably will be some more scheduled this year, but you'll have to stay tuned to find out for sure.
That must be a great view.
Hard to describe. I'm not sure I know the words. Sure wish everybody on the team down there got to see it.
Yeah, we get a view of you, so that's even better.
I'm not sure about that.
And I'm about to cross the charge, and my gauntlets are down.
You are go.
Christina Cook still making her way over to the work site on the P4 truss segment. Great view here coming from a camera set up inside the International Space Station looking out at them. Coming from the crew who's been keeping up with the spacewalk inside.
All right, Nick.
You can see Christina arriving at the work site now, joining Nick Haying, who's already there and waiting for her to help with the installation of the final adapter plate. I've got one more question while she continues to get into place. This one coming from Cynthia, who's asking on behalf of Miss Maisel's 4th grade class, how long do astronauts have to train to become astronauts? We actually have some astronaut candidates, which is what you're called when you're in training right now. That takes about 2 years, but after that, you've still got a little bit of a wait while you are in line to get assigned to a mission to go to space, and then once you are assigned, you've got some more training. So there's a lot of work involved in becoming an astronaut, but I think most of them would tell you it's worth it.
want to confirm my settings again. I've got Alpha 7, clockwise 2 set.
Nick, that is correct. Alpha 7, clockwise 2, and Christina, a reminder for you should translate outboard of the IEA, and on the other side of that keel, be mindful of the BGA and try not to kick it.
Okay, copy.
And Nick, we're going for H2, right? One line flush on H2.
Copy. I've got one line flush on H2, just waiting for Nana to get into a good position.
All
Does it work? You want to come around the keel?
Yeah, let me come around.
Yeah, there's a lot more room over there.
Over there earlier.
Good call.
And Christina, your safety tether is routed around your back at that point.
Okay. I'll do a little.
Between your legs.
Towards it.
Yeah.
How's that?
Just right over your right heel. And there you go. Hold on. Alrighty. Come on, we're in a good position. I'm one line flush to H2, ready to drive.
Copy, one line flush to H2, Alpha 7, clockwise 2. We expect 16, 17 turns. You have a go.
Copy, go. I torqued out. That's a turn.
Yeah, let's stand by one. I'll get a better finger on it.
Seems like it's pushing out away from the plate a little bit.
Hey, getting started on the first of the 2 volts that he needs to drive, or that he and Christina Cook need to drive before the adapter plate will be installed.
Jacking. Good. Tomorrow, I got 9.1 on the torque, 17 turns, good green light.
Copy, 9.1 on the torque, 17, good green light. You can move on to H1, and remember we expect interference with the IEA wall.
Hey.
Get on that?
In H1, I've got 2 lines showing, one of them flush.
Copy, and your settings are the same. Alpha 7, clockwise 2, 2 lines, 1 flush. We expect about 5 turns. You are go to drive to torque.
Okay, cover that. Do you want to brace the, if you hold the end of it? The tip? Yeah, there.
Yep,
that's
got
perfect. Start and turn. Some 6 turns. 9.4 on the torque. Good green light.
Copy, Nick. 6 turns, 9.4, and good green light. That is a successful install of that AP Delta. You can now transfer that PGT back to Christina when she's in a position, or you can stow it back yourself on crew log bag 1. Release that breath that you have on the AP and unlock.
Do that. GT's back to crew log bag, working on the red.
Copy, and after you've done so, you're go to release those 3 TA clamps on the AP.
Come on. Do I have a go to release the connector cap?
You do, Christina.
Copy.
And Christina, this cap, this specific one, we're keeping it on you for the 4 alpha side.
Okay, so keep it.
That's correct. And Nick, once you've released you're reading my mind, you can demate this the AP connector P4 from the AP Delta J4.
With those bolts driven in properly, the adapter plates installed in its spot, and now Nick Haig's getting ready to connect the cable with Christina Cook's help to the...
Once you've made all the good checks, or you can transfer it to Christina if you need our help.
Getting ready to connect that cable to the new lithium-ion battery that'll help integrate with the station's electronic system. You also heard Capcom Thomas Pesquet asking Christina Cook to hold on to one of the connector caps. The other caps have been used to plug up the dummy spot, basically, on the adapter plate where the cable had been connected for launch. But this one they're going to use as they go out to get the battery that we'll be replacing, the lithium-ion battery that we'll be replacing with old nickel-hydrogen batteries. They'll be using that cap for that forward work, getting ready for the robotics to replace that.
Christina, if you can reach this while you're close.
This BRT, and I will have it for you. Step this out right now. Okay, I'm ready. Got it?
Okay. Hold open. Yeah, working.
Okay, coming to you.
Okay, I got it.
I see no 5, no but 10s on the connector side of J4.
Okay. And
Copy, Christina. That's good checks. You are go to connect that P4 to the J4 lithium-ion battery in slot 1.
Okay, we don't need to worry too much about them here.
View from Christina Cook's helmet camera as she gets ready to connect that last cable for the final adapter plate, connecting it to one of the new lithium-ion batteries.
Just made it over center.
Copy. Good job, you guys. And Nick, you haven't done so. You can close those 3 TA clamps. And after that, egress the APFR. Copy.
Copy that. Good now.
Come off, and also be ready for next step.
Copy, Christina. And your next step for now is going to be to give me a glove inspection and hab check.
Copy.
That last adapter plate D, now installed at the integrated electronics assembly.
The APFR, your next steps are going to be to stow the ingress aid and fold it to the APFR boot plate.
Copy and work.
And for EV2, no changes on the glove, dry half.
Hake and Cook will have a little cleanup work to do around this task before they move on to their next set of tasks. For Christina, that's some get-aheads for future battery swap-outs, while Nick will be moving to the site that he and Ann McLean worked at last week to make some preparations for the swap of one of the new batteries that has experienced a problem with the old batteries we'll use to replace it for now.
Tomorrow, I've got the ingress aid folded. I've got no change to the gloves, dry half.
Okay, sounds good, Nick. Thanks for that. And next big picture item is doing some cleanup here on P4. And for you, Nick, it's going to start by retrieving the scoops, square scoops, and stow them in crew dock bag 1. You can keep one on yourself to go, oh no, put 3 of them in your crew dock bag 1. And for you, Christina, your cleanup steps are going to happen on the EP, close to the EP. We want you to recouple those SIDA cards, and you're going to have to translate back to the APFR bridge.
Okay, good work.
And then I'll let you back out, and then I'll come in behind to clean up the crew lock bag.
Sounds good.
And for you guys' awareness, we're still 10 minutes ahead at that point. We want Christina to go back, clean up on P1 and the SIDA cards, and then Nick do all the cleanup on P4. Then you'll meet up and go to the 2 Alpha ISS Zenith side to do the 4 Alpha deconfig.
Copy.
Copy.
Bit of a change in plans there to what I said a moment ago. Christina Cook will be joining Nick Hague on the work for the swap out of the battery that experienced a problem after it was installed on the last spacewalk. They'll be working on that together, getting some things ready so that the space station's robotic arm, controlled by teams here on the ground, can actually perform the swap out over the course of the next week before the final spacewalk in this series on April 8th.
Passing massage, gauntlets are down.
Copy, Christina.
Tomorrow I'm at my green hook. I'm going to pick it up unless you recommend otherwise.
You can pick it up now, Nick. It's not an issue. And your next steps, yeah, they're going to be to retrieve those 3 square scoops and stow them in a crew log bag 1.
Okay.
And Christina, for you, once you're at the APFR bridge, your first step is to configure APFR in a low profile and report the settings.
Copy. I am there, and I'll put that to work.
Sounds good. And you guys, more good news. We have a good initial checkout on that last battery that you've connected the AP next to.
It's great news. Hey, tomorrow I've got my green hook. Heading over to clean up the crew log bag.
Copy, Nick.
Tomorrow, before I grab these scoops, big picture, what's going in the bag, what's staying out of the bag. I've got a ratchet with the 6-inch wobble that's on the outside, and I've got the PGT on the outside. Everything else is on the inside.
And Nick, depends if you're comfortable carrying the bag like that. It can stay like this, or you can put everything inside but the PGT if you think that's going to make it more comfortable for the translation. But we're taking the whole thing over to the 4 Alpha side.
Okay, copy. I'll wrap it all up.
And we also have to do socket swap, or to remove the hex driver from that PGT and still on the socket caddy before you close up that crew log bag.
Okay, great. Will do.
Come on, I'm ready with APFR settings.
We're listening.
Talking is 6. Romeo, Romeo. Foxtrot. 6.
I copied 6, Romeo, Romeo, Foxtrot 6.
Read that.
Okay, and I think you've already done so, but you can make sure that the ingress head is folded as much as possible. And after that, you can retrieve your green hook from the port SETA cart, nade your handrail before we start moving the SETA cart.
This view again coming from inside the space station, provided to us by the crew inside, who's been keeping up with the activities going on the exterior.
Brake must have been released inadvertently.
Cook and Hanger doing some cleanup work following the final installation of the last adapter plate needed to finish up the switch out of the new lithium-ion batteries.
Christina, you're saying the SETA cart is moving quite a bit?
Firm. Brake must have already been released.
Yeah, okay, that's not a huge deal. We'll have to move it anyway, but you can retrieve your green hook, and your next step is going to be anyway to release the port CETA card brakes, and then to recouple that port CETA card.
Okay.
Christina Cook's been working to take apart the bridge she created from one work site to the other earlier today, and having achieved that, she's now getting the CETA cart, the crew equipment translation aid cart that's used to move big pieces of equipment up and down the space station's truss, back into configuration so that it can be moved again following the spacewalk. Meanwhile, Nick Hague has been working to take up the scoops that were used to help them move the old nickel hydrogen battery into its stowage location, and then also getting some tools into their crew, their toolbox basically, and moving out to their next work site, which will be back where he and Ann McLean worked last week, looking at a battery that hasn't been able to charge, that they will be replacing robotically over the course of the next week.
We're just back with you from a 20 seconds handover. So can you say again, Christina?
Okay. Yep. I still have my green hook on the cart, and as a result, it's tending back. So it's starting to just slowly and gently move starboard as I would want it to. If you concur, I'll just leave my green hook on it, let it tend back. I confirmed it's in capture, and the energy absorber is suspended.
And Christina, we copy as long as you're sure that your safety hazard line is out of the way and you have a good way to control that CETA cart and guide it with your hand, and then you're good to go.
That's been work.
Thomas, I have released the 3 scoops. I'm over the top of the crew lock bag. You mentioned a socket swap. I have a socket caddy in here with a 2-inch rigid.
Okay, Nick, the step is going to be to remove the hex driver from the IEA PGT that's on that bag and to stow on that socket caddy. It's not technically a swap. You just have to remove that socket from the PGT.
Copy all, and work.
Thomas, I have the CETA cart in capture, or captured by the mechanism. I'll go ahead and turn it to lock if you can.
And Christina, we need those brake handles to face away from face 1, not parallel to face 1, but away from face 1, 90 degrees.
Copy.
And Nick, once you've taken off that 9-inch hex driver from the PGT and you've stowed it securely on the socket caddy, you can put that socket caddy back in the bag, and then you'll stow that PGT at P4 handrail 5127 for Christina to pick.
Copy and work. Full test on the hex head.
Copy,
handles
thanks.
are perpendicular to face 1.
Copy. That looks good. So, Christina, if you confirm that the MT coupler is coupled, now we just need you to rotate that knob to the lock position.
Good work. It is in lock.
That view from Christina Cook's helmet camera, and this one from a camera on the exterior of the space station as she continues working to get the
Christina, you can
equipment cart into a configuration so that it can be moved following the spacewalk by teams here on the ground.
What are you working on?
I'm trying to everything back in the crew lock bag, and then I'm going to leave the PGT for you.
Copy.
And Christina, if you can confirm for us that you're working on your green hook, correct?
Sir, I'm working on my green hook.
Okay.
The green hook has been dropped, or retrieved rather, and I am going for the crew lock bag.
Copy, green hook is retrieved.
View of astronaut Nick Hague still at the integrated electronics assembly at the P4 segment of the truss. The crew will be moving to the other side of the assembly to get ready for that get-ahead work they'll be doing with a battery that had a problem, and also the battery discharge control unit that controls the charge that goes into that battery. Getting those ready for switch out by the space station's robotic arm over the course of the next week. We have a few more questions coming in from social media. The first one from Melissa, who is asking, do all astronauts have an engineering background? And no, they don't. Astronauts can have really just about any STEM background that you can think of, including we've had scientists and doctors and veterinarians and mathematicians all join the astronaut course. So if you are interested in any STEM subjects, you might be a good candidate. Takumi is asking for his 8-year-old whether astronauts get to take a break to eat or drink during the spacewalk. They have water bags included in their spacesuit, so they are basically able to take a drink through a straw for that. But as far as getting a snack during a spacewalk, they don't get to stop for a snack. So they've got 6.5 hours of work planned for their spacewalk, and they know during that time they won't be able to get anything to eat. Plus, there's extra time on both ends when they're in their spacesuits. So they have to go into a spacewalk day knowing that they'll maybe be missing lunch, and I think they would still say that that's worth it for the view they get outside and the fun of doing a spacewalk.
To the 4 Alpha side for a few steps, and Christina will come back and finish the cleanup on the IEA, which is driving 2 bolts in slot 1 and 5, and we think that's going to put you guys back in sync, and we'll talk P6 later on.
Okay.
Copy.
And Tomas, for accounting purposes, the PGT that was on crew lock bag 1 had a Brett small in series. I have one of those on the outside of crew lock bag 1. The other one is remaining with the PGT, so I split that series of Reds.
Okay, Nick, good words. We appreciate your words on that. And Christina, before you cross the Sarge, I'll have to check that your gauntlets are in place.
Gauntlets are in place.
Thank you.
Another question from social media, and just a reminder, you can submit yours using the hashtag AskNASA. This one from Crazy Kindergarten Teacher asking on behalf of Mrs. Floyd's kindergarten class how long it took to build the space station. The first piece of the space station was actually launched into space in 1998. So from then until the last space shuttle mission, assembly was pretty much ongoing, and we're still adding to the space station and putting things into space to keep it maintained. So it took a long time, and that's not even counting the time that it took to build the pieces on Earth before they went to space. So it was quite an undertaking to try and get this built, but it is an exceptional laboratory and a really great place to do research in space.
I'm going to come down the handrail that just right by your knees.
Okay, I will get out of your way.
And Christina, after that, your steps will be to retrieve that PGT that Nick left for you and install a 6-inch wobble socket from the socket caddy in crew log back 2 that you're carrying with you.
Copy.
And we're 10 seconds from the LOS.
Copy, come on, 10 seconds.
Copy.
And Nick and Christina, we're back with you.
Copy that, come on.
Copy. Good to be back.
I am directly overhead the BCU for 4 Alpha 3.
Copy, Nick. You can temp stow your crew log back number 1 pretty much wherever you think it's not going to be in the way. I have here in the procedure between the DCSU tether point and the DDCU tether point. But like we said, you can stow it on a circumferential handrail if you want to.
Copy that. Didn't work.
Copy, Nick. In a note for you, I know you know, but the BGA is rotating on that side.
I am working on the socket swap to the
Copy, Christina, and you'll grab that 6-inch wobble from the socket caddy in your crew log bag number 2 and install it on that IEA PGT that you've retrieved from Nick. And Nick, I know it's dark right now, but your next step is going to be to inspect that 4A3 work site, and if you see anything out of the ordinary, to report it to us.
Copy, will do.
Since bobble installed on the PG test. And this is the PGC Nicholas for me.
Copy, good words. Your next step, Christina, is going to be to translate to the lithium-ion battery in slot 1 and drive that H1.
Copy.
And Christina, same, I know you know, but that slot 1 is forward port on the IEA.
Forward and port, copy.
4.5 hours into today's spacewalk, the crew members have split up on a couple of different tasks. Christina Cook is working on some of the cleanup work from the battery installation. She is driving bolts on driving bolts on 2 of the batteries that the space station's robotic arm previously installed, finishing up those installations and getting them nice and secure. Meanwhile, Nick Hague's moving to the work site that he and Anne McLean were at last week to check it out and see if there's anything that looks unusual before he gets started on some work that will get ready for future robotics work to switch out one of those batteries.
In case you see anything.
Okay, I'll take a peek.
The P4 truss that the crew members have been at all day and last week during the first spacewalk has 2 power channels. There are 8 power channels in all at the space station, each with its own string of 3 batteries. And so the crew has been finishing up the work to get the 3 new batteries on the P4 for a segment of the power channels installed for this spacewalk. But now Nick Hague is going back to the 2A power channel to look at the batteries that he and Anne McLean installed last week.
That sounds good. Thanks for the inspection. I think you can move on to your next step, which is going to be to retrieve that ratchet wrench from that crew log bag 1 inside or outside and stow it on your meter workstation.
On for the ratchet wrench.
Correction there, Nick Hague's back at the 4A work site, that 4A3 work site that he and Anne McLean were at last week, looking at one of the batteries that they installed that as the ground was working with it this week, getting it up and running, they found that it wasn't charging like it should be. They think that is probably because of the BDCU, which is the battery discharge control unit. I think an issue with it may have caused a problem for that battery, but it still needs to be removed so that they can put 2 of the old nickel hydrogen batteries back in its place to be used while they send that battery down to the ground for a look, and until they can get a new battery to replace it. The robotic arm will be doing the heavy lifting of making that swamp, just as it did for putting the new batteries into place. But Hague and Cook will be doing some work to get things ready for the robotic arm to do that.
1 in the corner, we'll go for H1, and I'll have settings for your PGT.
To get the battery discharge control unit ready to be replaced by the robotic arm, Haig will need to loosen 2 bolts on it, then release one and retighten up the other. They'll also need to undo the work that Tian and McLean did last week by disconnecting the adapter plate cable that they connected to one of the new lithium-ion batteries and then tying that down so that the robotic arm can pick the adapter plate up and move it out of the way.
Copy, Nick. Well done. You can translate to the BCDU that's going to be the aft inboard corner of the IEA. And then using your ratchet wrench, we'll try to break torque on H1 and H2, H1 first.
Copy.
Hey, starting on that work to loosen the bolts on the battery discharge control unit. The one other thing that needs to be done before the robotics work is to remove one of the 2 bolts on the lithium-ion battery and one of the 2 bolts on the old nickel-hydrogen battery.
BCDU itself.
BCDU, copy.
Primer debate presidencial de las elecciones del 2020. Un evento de 2 noches. Miércoles 26 de junio y jueves 27 de junio. En vivo desde Miami. En 3 cadenas. NBC News, MSNBC y Noticias Telemundo.